is losing. He had it set up. All Honky Tonk Man had to do was press play.
Whoa.
What?
Jesse James coming down the aisleway here.
What's he wearing?
Whoa, hold up, Kansas City and the whole wide world. Some of you may know my name, but for those of you who don't, take a big gander at the Titantron because the Road Dogg is back in the dog pound.
He used to be called the Roadie when he managed Jeff Jarrett.
That's right. Give it up for the dog. Now hold up. Willie Will, hold up. Back off of CC and don't throw a mud hole in me. That's not why I came here. I have seen it time and time again. Willie Will, this old, decrepit, rhinoceros horn having freak. No, that ain't what I came for either. You know, matter of fact, he's so old, Elvis Presley stole his gimmick. That's how old he is.
Double J showing no respect for the Honky Tonk Man.
Back off. I just came to talk. You know, me and you got a lot in common. Willie Will. Don't look at me like that and keep that freak back. Me and you have been curtain jerkers since day one, and don't say we ain't. We've been flat on our backs. 1, 2, 3, counting the lights. That's what we've been doing. You like it? You like doing it on Shotgun every week? You like laying flat on your back? Do you like it? No, let me answer that for you. No, you don't. Let me tell you why you do it. Because of this old piece of petrified wrestler right here.
That's not very nice.
Now, hey, I took one loser to the Intercontinental Championship belt here in the World Wrestling Federation.
You mentioned Jeff Jarrett.
My friend, you are not a loser, so me and you together. Oh, I smell money. Willie Will, are you with me? I don't know what you're trying to get started, Road Hog. But I can tell you one thing. You were nothing but a loser from day one. I didn't want to have anything to do with you. And I know you and Billy have been riding the roads together and you've been talking. But what I'm going to tell you right now is Rockabilly is championship material. Something you never will be, Hoss. And I'm going to ask him the ultimate question right now. And he's going to tell you, Willie Will, are you with me or not?
Well, what's the answer?
Well, he's nodding. It looks like Billy's with Honky.
I'm going to solve your problem.
Jesse James.
Oh, look out. Oh. Rockabilly just gave Honky Tonk Man the answer. And he's going to put an exclamation point on it. He broke the Honky Tonk.
Don't answer your question, Road Dogg. I just don't know what will.
He broke the Honky Tonk Man's guitar over his head. He's left him laying in the middle of the ring. Honky's girl get her as flat as a pancake. And what's with these two? Honky Tonk Man has been fired by Rockabilly. Can we see a new team being formed here? What's going on between these two?
Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the Coach, from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Payoff.
Oh, you didn't know? Welcome to an all-new episode of The Payoff. This is Tom Healy, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Jeffrey Ryan. Jeff, this show is bittersweet for me because it's the beginning of the new age Outlaws, but unfortunately, the end of Rockabilly. But first, Jeff, how the hell are you doing?
It's me. It's the JEFF, the RYAN, the podcast champions of the world. I can't do it nearly as well as them.
That wasn't bad. That wasn't bad.
I hit the note. And so having some fun trying, that's what matters. That's what we're all about here, Tom. So obviously I'm doing fantastic. This is going to be a great one today. Just talking about a tag team that did so much for the wrestling business and the wrestling universe, and one that was just incredible to watch every time they were on screen. So I'll start with, as always, thanking our listeners and fans. I'll just come right out and say it too. Last week's episode was just awesome. Full of catchphrases here today, everybody.
Oh, that's number 3, and we're a minute into the show.
We're going strong today. So, of course, I also say it every week because it's the only way we can continue to grow and be successful. Subscribe, give us 5 stars, and spread the word about the Payoff. You can always find the Payoff on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're at Payoff Pod. Between Tom and myself, someone is going to respond. We're checking that quite frequently. So lots of good stuff happening. Lots of catchphrases already, Tom. What else do we need to tell our listeners, bud?
Yeah, thanks to all our listeners around the world. And hey, big props to our listener who's a truck driver and on a recent cross-country trip knocked out all of our episodes and is now caught up. Awesome stuff. If you like what you're hearing and you want to support the show, you can always find us on Patreon. More of us, more bonus shows, after shows, shows on the current product, much more. Check it out, payoffpatreon.com. That's payoffpatreon.com. For those of you that are new to the Payoff, Jeff, keep it short and sweet, but explain how we do things here at the Payoff.
Yeah, we're going to give you a weekly deep dive into a match every Monday. And it's broken up into 3 parts. Part 1, the build, where we explain the story leading up to a match. Part 2, the payoff. We watch the match along with a superstar or legend of the squared circle. And part 3, the aftermath. We talk about what happened in the story after the finish of the match. And then we wrap it up with some reviews and write-ups from the time and then our own payoff score. And then so we always send the crowd home happy. So before we get to the build, Tom, please tell everyone what is available in our archives.
Yeah, if you haven't heard our previous episodes, make sure to check them out and tell your friends. In the archives, we've got Vicky Guerrero watching Eddie's first title win, Raven dissecting his classic match with Tommy Dreamer, the Ultimate Challenge at WrestleMania 6 with the man who trained the Ultimate Warrior, Shane Douglas throwing down the NWA title belt, and so much more. Hit download and check out all the great shows we have in the archives. So here we are. Each week, we like to give our thoughts on why we chose the particular match for the payoff. Here's my thought. What was just a thrown-together match on a Shotgun Saturday night turned into the beginning of one of the greatest tag teams of all time. Jeff, the beautiful thing about this legendary tag team is that they were literally 2 journeymen, lower card wrestlers going absolutely nowhere. And then boom, put them together, don't script them, let them just go out there and have fun. And what do we get? One of the best tag teams ever. So man, I can't wait to cover this match, what each guy was doing leading up to this match, and then ultimately what would become of Jesse, James, and Rockabilly. Jeff, why'd you want to do this match?
Yeah, if you couldn't tell from my intro, I will always be a fan of the New Age Outlaws, and I will always mark out whenever they show up, be it when they are on TV, every week when I was growing up and could see them all the time, or, nowadays just come back for special appearances, be it the Hall of Fame stuff or whatever it might be. I will always be a fan. I will say that I did not remember at all how they were actually formed into a tag team and the vital role that actually one Honky Tonk Man played in them becoming a tag team. So with that, let's get to the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
All right, here we are with the build. Let us set the stage for you. It's Shotgun Saturday Night on October 11th, 1997. Now, this was when they were just taping it before or after Raw. It wasn't like the early days of Shotgun Saturday Night where they were doing it in like bus stations and nightclubs. Those were some fun shows. This one was actually recorded on October 6th in Kansas City. It was part of a live Raw that drew 11,484 fans for 185,000 at the gate, which was a record for the city. Now, also on this Shotgun Saturday Night, we had Jason Arndt defeating Ahmed Johnson by disqualification. We also, Jeff, had Skull and 8-Ball defeating the Jackal and the Interrogator, who were accompanied to the ring by Recon and Sniper. That was via DQ.
I got to stop you, buddy. This is already a great card, so I can't wait to see what comes next.
Oh, this is fantastic. Next, we had Nova pinning Tarantula at 4:37 with a roll-up. Special guest referee was Sonny. Also, Dude Love pinning Jose Estrada at 4:26 with sweet shin music. So if you haven't seen that show recently, go out of your way to find that. Really a fantastic, I can't even say it with a straight face, really shitty Shotgun Saturday Night. I love over the years we've had all these different C and D shows that, we just keep changing the name and filming like shit matches and putting them on at like weird times on the weekend. But on a more serious note, also going on in the wrestling business, the day before this match was filmed, October 5th, 1997, Brian Pillman was found dead in a hotel room in Bloomington, Minnesota. He was only 35 years old. Now, later that evening, the WWF would run a pay-per-view called Bad Blood, which would feature the legendary first ever Hell in a Cell match between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker. Now, that main event was given 5 stars by, as Jeff calls him, the Star Giver, Dave Meltzer. This was the last WWF/WWE match to receive 5 stars until 14 years later when John Cena and CM Punk received 5 stars for the 2011 Money in the Bank main event, which was a hell of a match. So, Jeff, as you know, I'm a huge HBK mark. I thought this was one of his finest matches ever, just an incredible historic match. You had the first Hell in a Cell match. You had these 2 legends. Let's also not forget we had, that's gotta be Kane! That's impression number 4, I believe, on the show. But really great stuff, and cannot wait to cover that Hell in a Cell match on the Payoff. The other thing about that evening of October 6th was they did that odd interview with Melanie Pillman, who's Brian Pillman's wife at the time, just, I guess, a day after she had lost her husband, and was not really well received that they did that. Just a tough thing to watch. So again, that's on Monday, and then Saturday, of course, this match would air. And again, just talking about what's going on in the business, we're less than a month away from the Montreal Screwjob, okay? And then you've got Steve Austin, who's white hot. We're building towards him winning the championship at WrestleMania 14. Just a ton going on. And keep in mind that 5 short months after what we're about to talk about on this show happens, Rockabilly and Jesse James are now this red-hot tag team in D-Generation X. So a lot happening really, really quickly. The other interesting thing I found in my research was around this time, the WWF announced they were going to tour Saudi Arabia, maybe the first time ever, but who the hell would have known what that would lead to? So just interesting stuff as always, fun to look at what's going on in the business. Jeff, each week you do a great job of walking us through what's going on from a storyline point. So how did we get to the formation of the New Age Outlaws and this Rockabilly and Flash Funk matchup?
Yeah, let's start in 1993. Billy Gunn made his WWF debut on the May 17th episode of Raw, and he was teaming with his not actual brother, Bart Gunn, and they were known as the Smoking Guns. They remained a tag team until late 1996, and along the way, they won the tag titles 3 times. Billy, I do want to point out during this time, in his first Royal Rumble, he remained in the ring for an eternity of 14 seconds before he was eliminated by Big Daddy Cool Diesel. So everyone knows too, Diesel was the first wrestler I ever met in an autograph signing. So Tom, putting you on the spot, who was the first wrestler you ever met?
Okay, Jeff, I was at a Pittsburgh Pirate baseball game, and there was a free meet and greet with a up-and-comer by the name of Rocky Maivia. That's the first wrestler I ever met.
Did he turn into something? I feel like it's a good name. You never know.
Yeah, he did okay for himself.
He did fine, so that's good. So, Tom, on the classic September 22nd, 1996 pay-per-view, In Your House Mind Games, the Smoking Guns lost their tag titles to Owen Hart and the British Bulldog. So after the match, get ready for this. We've already said her once. Sunny, who was the valet and manager for the Guns, she left working with them because she said she would only manage title holders. So upsetting. Just like Billy, who was upset not only at the loss, but also losing Sunny. And he was so upset that he walked out on his brother. So terrible. Forever breaking up the Smoking Guns.
I almost started singing Sunny's theme song, but I thought that would be crossing the line.
Ooh, that would be too many catchphrases, but we might have some more later. So fast forward to WrestleMania 13, 1997. Billy defeated Flash Funk on what was essentially the pre-show back then called Free For All. I need to do a little bit more research myself into Free For All and what was happening there. But
yeah, go back and watch all those Free For All pre-shows and let us know what you think of them.
I will let you know, especially, buddy. Just for you, I'm actually going to do it. So after that win, though, the Honky Tonk Man made Billy Gunn his protege, which is how we have now ended up with the character or gimmick of Rockabilly. So now this is just a hell of a storyline. You can't help but laugh at some of this. This is just great wrestling. We finally get Jesse James turning down Honky Tonk's Man offer to become manager of him. As we all know, in terms of wrestling storyline, this is how a feud begins. This is a pretty straight line here. So Jesse James was feuding with both Honky Tonk Man and Rockabilly when this match with Flash Funk occurred. Just a note on Jesse James, he was not being called Road Dogg yet, but he was billed as the Roadie to Jeff Jarrett. Roadie would actually get involved in JJ's matches or interfere or be at ringside. It was actually supposed to lead to a feud between the two over who wrote a song.
Spend my days working hard on the go.
This is just,
that song?
I hope people aren't doing shots every time that we do it because they'd be getting drunk at this point. But that is a real storyline. It was over a song, and they both actually left WWE briefly. But Roadie came back proclaiming himself as the real Double J until he got involved with Rockabilly and Honky Tonk. So, Tom, far more happening in the aftermath, but any other thoughts on the build to this match?
Yeah, the booking sucked. All right, I'll just add this. I was a big fan of Too Cold Scorpio / Flash Funk. Thought he was an awesome performer, did some really cool aerial stuff you didn't see much of in the WWF at that time. I just wish they could have done more with him. His outfit sucked, his name and gimmick sucked, and they just didn't really do him any favors. I definitely think, I don't know, maybe something more of like a Ricochet where it was a more serious presentation. Now, Jeff, you may not know this one, but Billy Gunn was actually a shoot bull rider in the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association, which according to my research is one of the better rodeo associations in the country.
That's good to know. That's a fun fact for the day. As
for Jesse James, I always enjoyed him being the sidekick to Double J, but he was certainly floundering at this point. Now, that gimmick you brought up, that real Double J, the Wrestling Observer newsletter voted that the worst gimmick of 1996. However, as we know, things are about to change for both the real Double J, Jesse James, as well as Rockabilly, Billy Gunn. So here we go. Now, usually we're able to give you a timestamp on where to find the match on the WWE Network. However, the Shotgun Saturday nights have yet to make their way to the network. I'm sure once they do, it's going to be a big boost for subscribers. But don't worry. If you want to watch this match along with Billy Gunn or just watch it later on, do a Google search, click on videos, and find Rockabilly vs. Flash Funk on 10/11/97. Again, that's their October 11th, 1997 matchup. So here we go. It's time for the payoff.
Ho! It's time for the payoff.
All right, we're here with the legendary Billy Gunn. Billy, welcome to the payoff.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's.
Oh my God, I'm having a flashback. I just saw me in my Bedazzler jacket and Honky Tonk Man standing next to me. I think I just fell over my chair. I want to die right now.
Rockabilly is on the screen. My goodness. Yeah. The good news is we know that things turn around and go in a better direction for you. This wasn't the peak of your career. Let's just say that.
Thank God. If that was the peak of my career would have been over. Holy crap.
My goodness. My goodness. All right, so 93, Smoking Guns. Who calls you? How does that get started? How do you get hooked up with Bart?
Me and Bart were way together before WWE. We were together doing some, not independent stuff. We were just training together. And we went to a show in Orlando that they came to. They invited us up for a tryout and sent us a letter that said they weren't looking for talent and no thank you. And then 2 days later, they called us and said, hey, we were just kidding. No, they didn't say they were kidding. They just said it was a mistake or whatever. They sent us the typical letter that says, hey, we're not looking for any talent right now, but thanks for coming and spending your time doing whatever. And then literally we had called Dave Hebner because he's the one that kind of got us the thing at Orlando and wanted to thank him and everything that we got the letter and stuff. And he goes, No, that's not true. And literally within an hour, we had a call from the office that said they wanted to hire us. So,
all right. So you've a nice little tag run there with the Smoking Guns. How do you end up as Rockabilly? Who pitches this idea, and what the hell did you think of it?
I don't know, because I still haven't figured it out, because I would probably punch them right in the face. No, they just wanted to separate me and Bart. They wanted to see what I could do by myself and what Bart could do by himself. And they said, hey, and this was never it, by the way. This was never, the Rockabilly thing was never what was it supposed to be. But we came to TV's when I was supposed to separate and do this debut thing, and this is what they had for me. And I was absolutely livid.
Okay, so you were pissed off about it? You weren't like...
Well, because there wasn't any thought put into it. And it's the same thing as what they do all the time. They give you this whole elaborate scheme of what they're going to do and why they're separating you and all this other stuff. And then all of a sudden they just came to me and go, hey, we never really had anything. So they ran one of the seamstress girls to Target to grab a Levi jacket with a Dazzler kit and put it all together and go, okay, this is what you're going to be. And I went, oh, thanks for, but I had no clout. I just do what they tell me to do. You know what I mean? Did the Smoking Guns. This was supposed to be my big debut, and this was it. And it wasn't that I was pissed off or anything. It was more the fact that they put no thought into it, and there was no direction.
Yeah, it's amazing how often that happens. I mean, growing up as a fan, I used to always think that when things happened, there were months of preparation. And then you hear all these stories now, and it's like, oh, yeah, I showed up, and they ran to Target and got me an outfit. And the future of your professional life is being determined with minutes to go before you go on air. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, it's crazy. You wonder how they run a company like that.
Yeah. So any thoughts of working with Honky? Did you like it, not like it?
It's what it was. You know what I mean? Honky was at a part where he knew this wasn't going to work. So when he knew it wasn't going to work, he put no effort into it. There's nothing against Honky. You know what I mean? It was nothing he could do. When he had been in the business a long time, he knew what was going to happen and what wasn't going to happen. And he knew what was going to work and wasn't going to work. And he already knew this. So when we did this, there was just never anything to it. There was no effort. There was no on either one of our parts. So it wasn't his fault. It wasn't my fault. It was, I'm going to say, the office's fault. And then this happens. This really cool guy comes down and we form this group.
And so how did that happen? Whose idea was it? How did you two end up together?
It's been so long ago, I hardly know all the logistics of. This wasn't going anywhere. Brian's deal wasn't going anywhere. We were literally on the verge of getting fired anyway because nothing was going on and nothing was happening. And I think it was Vince Russo that said, hey, let's put these guys together, see what we got. Because usually that happens once in a while, once in a blue moon, that two guys that aren't really separated, that aren't really that good, you can stick them together and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And as we all know, this happened to work very well, if I may say so myself.
And why did it work so well? I mean, what was so special?
The thing that worked so well, I think, is that we had nothing to lose. Mm-hmm. Like, we knew our strong parts and we never fought each other over it, right? So we knew what Brian's strong parts were. We knew what my strong parts were. So we put them together and we go, okay, how do we make this work? Or what do we do? Okay, well, first of all, we have no limits and we're not scared of getting fired because we're going to get fired anyway. So there's no reins on us. It's either sink or swim. So we just went, well, I'm not ready to sink right now, so let's give this a shot. And it was literally just me and him playing off of each other and having fun with each other. And then all the people kind of went, these guys are really cool because they just do some really cool stuff. Brian had some great ideas with the South Park stuff. He had a guy in Jay that would make these shirts, and we would just do silly things. We were never really that big in the wrestling thing. We just wanted to entertain people.
So were you given way more leeway back then than you would have been given now in that company?
Oh, yeah. They literally went, okay, you two are now together, and they never thought about us again. So they gave Brian a live mic, and they just told me, hey, do your thing and do whatever you wanted to do. So when we did this, I kind of switched gears a little bit. Because if everybody knows by now, this was me, not the Rockabilly part, but the Smoking Guns part. I'd rodeoed my entire life. I was a real live cowboy. So it was like, that was never an effort for me to be that character because I am that character. To this day, it's still in me. It's in my heart. So that character was never that hard to pull off. it was the wrestling part of this that was the struggle for me. Like, people know that I never was into this. I never grew up watching it. I didn't like it. Had no part of it until I started to doing it and realized how much fun you could actually have. And then we just went for it. We just turned it all loose. We just literally, I turned the personality and everything up to about 1,000. That inner person that I wish I could always be, they gave me a stage to do it. And that's exactly what we did.
So I actually got a pretty good pop. I mean, as you're walking back and, that night, if someone would have told you everything that was going to come, would you have believed it? Or did you,
No.
Okay. So you at that time, you're like, look, let's just throw a Hail Mary and see if anything happens.
It really was. It was just, what can we do with this? What can we do? One is to really stick it up everybody's butt and see how good we can really be. But the thing is the chemistry between me and Brian to this day, to this minute, to this hour is amazing. Like, you can literally stick us together and it's like we've never been apart. I don't know what it is. I don't know how it is. I've never questioned it because it's always been so good, is that we just have this thing when we're together that we just create magic. We're just really good together, and we know how to feed off of each other so good that it never gets old, ever.
Were you guys good friends prior to this, or did
No.
Wow, okay.
We knew each other, of course, because we worked in the same company, and then we were opening match every single night, I think, for about 3 months. That it was ridiculous, but we didn't know how we would be together. Separate, we did our thing. I thought he had a better run than I did. Our runs were about the same, although I thought the roadie character was really good, and it's kind of right up his alley because he's such a goofball, but he's such an awesome guy that kind of was right up his alley. And then we're not doing anything separately, but putting us together, we were just ridiculous.
Yeah. Your entire career, what's your favorite match that you were ever in?
God, I don't know. I really don't. Like I said, when I'm not a wrestling fan, I really don't look at it that way. What I do say is when people ask me that question, I say it has to be the dumpster match when we chucked Terry Funk and Mick off the stage, because I think that moment, that night when we did that, people literally just went, oh my God, they are for real. There was like a really weird feeling in the building and amongst everybody that went, okay, they're on. So I think when I answer that question, it's always that. Was it really good? I don't know if the match was that good, but it sent out a statement, and the statement was more powerful than any 5-star match you could have.
Oh, that's the thing. That's our podcast. We talk about the moments and we try to rank the moments, rather than, that sequence of moves was so interesting, let's give it 5 stars.
Yeah.
Last thing I want to ask you about this match, and really not about the match, but just your career. Is there anything in particular that you're most proud of from your career? Or when you're talking with some of the young guys, like, hey, go watch this. This is pretty good stuff.
You know what it is? I feel that a lot of kids these days have lost the art of knowing what to do with people. Like, they don't understand. You're not working for you. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's not about the guy across from you. It's about what you two can do together to entertain the people that come in the building to watch you. I was at a show in San Jose for Kirk White this weekend, and probably a couple hundred people or whatever. And the students, when I came in the back, they looked at me and they went, your crowd control and people control is amazing. And went, yeah, it is. So if you took away from any of that, take that away. Because all it was is making the people enjoy what they're watching. Because today, it's all about moves. It's all about how many times I can flip. It's how many times I can dive. And nobody cares. You know why? Because I see it every single match. And nobody lets the people follow along. And it's all, for me and Brian, it's always been about people. That's why we were so popular. There is nobody on planet Earth that's ever going to go, those two are probably the greatest wrestlers of all time. But you know what? That's okay. But they will say that those two are the most entertaining, and the people got every bit of their money. If they came to see somebody else, we gave them everything that we could possibly give them to entertain them and make them feel like they did not waste the $200 to bring their kids and their screaming wife to the show to put up with that. Not that that means anything. I'm just saying that in general.
Hey, I know. I took my wife to the show in Vegas, and about 2.5 hours into, she's like, "Get me the hell out of this place." So I could appreciate that. I got a good run there, got a few beers there, and then it just she reached her limit. So, all right. Well, this was fun watching this and reliving the formation of the New Age Outlaws. Thanks so much for being here on the Payoff.
Yeah, man. No, thanks for having me. It was awesome.
Ho! It's time for the aftermath.
I got to start by saying huge thank you to the badass Billy Gunn. I was super excited when he agreed to be on the Payoff, and so this one was just fantastic for me. Tom, what do you got for initial thoughts?
Yeah, Billy was awesome, and I actually think he's going to be a major asset to AEW's talent, just on getting them to slow down a bit and focus more on the people in the seats. He had a great career, and he's still in fantastic shape out there working matches. So great guest, and someone I think the young guys in the business can certainly learn from. I'm always blown away by guys like Billy saying, yeah, they just ran to Target, got me an outfit, put me with Honky, and I was on TV. See this young guy, great build, solid in the ring, lots of charisma, and you just slap on a new gimmick and has nothing to do with his actual personality, and all of a sudden, what do we have? Terrible gimmick that obviously wasn't going to work. Also, we hear it over and over again, but when the talent isn't into something, it just never seems to work. Billy and Honky both thought the idea sucked, so they weren't into it, and whatever minor, small little chance it may have had to succeed, it was thrown out the window. Billy walking to the ring cracked me up. If you go back and watch it, he was just so obviously not into this gimmick and didn't even really know how to act. He was just probably happy he knew it was the last time he was ever going to have to walk to the ring looking like that. Jim Cornette on commentary, excellent. Man, you go back and, we've been watching these matches from 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. The commentary was just so much better than it is now. Like, I think Morrow on NXT is really good. Otherwise, it's not getting it done for me, man. So, Jeff, walk everyone through the aftermath to this story.
Yeah, in the immediate aftermath, as we saw, Honky Tonk cost Rockabilly the win, and then Jesse James came down to the ring as Flash was leaving. He then cuts what I can only call just a fantastic promo that buried Honky Tonk and got Billy over with him at the same time. We get the inevitable wrestling twist of Rockabilly grabbing Honky Tonk's guitar as he is about to hit Jesse James, only for Rockabilly to break the guitar over Honky Tonk's head instead. Naturally. So they then walked up the ramp together as partners. The next Shotgun Saturday Night was taped, and then Rockabilly and Jesse James beat the Blackjacks. And then before the match, James referred to Rockabilly as Badass Billy Gunn and himself as Road Dogg. So he also told Badass that getting rid of that rhinoceros Honky Tonk Man was the first good move he had made in a long time, and forming a tag team with Road Dogg was his second best move. For those uninformed, just take a look at a picture of Honky Tonk and his hair, and you'll understand the rhinoceros comment. So within the first few months as Road Dogg Jesse James and Badass Billy Gunn, they won the tag team championships from the Legion of Doom. So not only did they win the tag titles that night, but that was also when they got their Outlaws nickname, which was actually from JR, because they stole the win and then ran to a waiting car. And so JR referred to them as outlaws leaving a robbery. So even a little piece I didn't know, we always say it, but I didn't actually know where it came from. So Tom, anything I missed on this story and how it played out after the match?
Yeah, just a few things to add to that. I thought it was interesting. There really wasn't much of a follow-up a few days later on Raw. This was kind of like a Shotgun Saturday Night storyline at first. They did show a quick little highlight of the breakup and the two guys joining up together, but I just didn't feel like there were massive plans initially. But look, they fought hard, they got themselves over, and you couldn't deny the crowd reactions. So the week after Billy and Jesse formed their alliance, Meltzer would write that Jeff Jarrett's contract was actually expiring, and he speculated that Jarrett was WWF bound, and they were going to put him with Jesse James because he changed his ring name back to the Roadie and it turned heel. So he did go back there, but did not align himself with the Roadie or the Road Dogg Jesse James. For 1997 in the PWI 500, Rockabilly was 148, Jesse James was 153, which is just one spot ahead of Marty Jannetty, otherwise known as Party Jannetty, if you've ever had the opportunity to be around him at the bar at a WrestleMania weekend, as I have had the absolute pleasure of doing. As Jeff knows, Marty Jannetty's in my top 5 dream guests for this podcast. So Marty, if you're listening, it's tom@payoffpod.com. That's tom@payoffpod.com. Let's make it happen, brother. All right, Jeff, tell us how this match was reviewed in the sheets.
Yeah, so the PW Torch said, Flash Funk beat Rockabilly with Honky Tonk Man when Honky Tonk's interference backfired and Funk hit a victory roll for the pin. After Rockabilly and Honky Tonk Man argued over the loss, Jesse James then showed up and said how he now wants to be known as Road Dogg. He ridiculed Honky Tonk Man, saying he is so old it was actually Elvis who stole his gimmick rather than the other way around. He told Rockabilly they had been making a mistake these past few months by letting Honky Tonk Man manage them. He said as long as they are managed by Honky Tonk Man, there will be nothing but curtain jerkers. Great line. So Road Dogg claimed he had taken one loser and turned him into an Intercontinental Champion before, an apparent reference to the former Jeff Jarrett. He told Rockabilly he had the talent to be a champion, but he needs to dump Honky Tonk Man and follow him. Honky Tonk Man objected to Road Dogg's remarks and demanded that Rockabilly state which side he was on. Rockabilly smashed the guitar of Honky Tonk Man over his head in response and then left with Road Dogg. Straight to the point. So, Tom, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, nothing really noteworthy in that description. I guess my only pushback would be that the guitar shot got a pretty darn good crowd reaction, so it's probably worth talking about in that description. And I thought the promo was great as well. You know, the other thing I'll say is it's fun to look back because this was actually a huge moment in wrestling. You're talking about 2 key players in the Attitude Era coming together to form one of the greatest tag teams of all time. And at the time, you had no idea what was going to happen. So pretty cool. All right, Jeff, it's payoff score time.
Yeah, as always on the payoff, Tom and I will provide our payoff scores to sum up how we feel about the match. Just a quick rank on the entire package, the build, the match itself, the aftermath, the participants, everything. No specific formula, just what the two of us think. So, Tom, as everyone knows, the two of us do not discuss these scoring events. So, Tom, what do you have for your score?
So I'm putting this one at a 6.5. Obviously, there's nothing going on in this match. I mean, right? It's just 2 lower card guys on a nothing show. So that's the negative. However, the plus side here is that it was historical because it brought together what would become one of the greatest tag teams ever. The guitar shot gets a huge pop, and it really did mean something that Honky got hit by his own guitar. So there's actually a really big rub there from a future Hall of Famer. The promos by Jesse James and Honky were both really good, and the pop for the guitar shot was solid. It definitely worked. So overall, solid angle. It would obviously go on to mean something, and it was off to the races for these 2 journeymen. So giving it a little bit of a higher score because of what would become of it, not necessarily what it meant at that moment. Jeff, what'd you have, buddy?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a 5.5. I think that there is more in the future for these 2 guys that I always try and put myself in the moment when the match was happening, but this one's tough for me because I know that there's just bigger things happening in these guys' future. So that I can't put it any higher right now, and just 5.5 is a pretty solid score for just how I look at how this plays out. You're right. The match was not anything special, but everything that happened after, we eventually end up with just one of the greatest tag teams ever. So I do always wonder where they get all those guitars from because they break a lot of guitars in the WWE.
Do you actually not know where they get them?
Oh, here we go, buddy. Where do they get the guitars from, Tom?
At a guitar store, you dumbass.
Okay, so I'm going to stick around, but we need to wrap this up because I'm over you today. So, Tom, please wrap it up.
All right, so I feel like it's been a few weeks since I brought our listeners a fun fact. So here you go. In 2000, Billy Gunn would appear on Sabrina the Teenage Witch in an episode called Salem's Daughter, where his character was Xavier the Avenger Prescott. Now, Jeff, where did this rank for you all time with Sabrina the Teenage Witch episodes?
Among the classic show, very high, of course, like most.
Okay, so also, I think it's funny covering this match because, like I said before, it just didn't seem like a big deal at the time. But these guys are a legendary Hall of Fame tag team, so the significance of what this started is huge. But at the time, it was just throwing 2 random guys together, which is my point, right? You have 2 guys that are struggling, but they clearly have talent like this. and they just aren't packaged correctly. So I'd say they need to do this more often. Let's take New Day, for instance, right? Think about all the merch they're selling. Think about all the success they've had and how maybe the sum of the parts is far greater than the parts individually. And so with these guys, you had two guys who weren't getting over. You threw them in a tag team, and guess what? It couldn't hurt them. And as Billy pointed out, it needed to be organic. You let these two guys go out there with nothing to lose and just let it rip without a silly gimmick or a script. They just put them out there with a live mic, primarily Road Dogg, who was a great talker, and it was obviously magic. So, Jeff, do you think some big writing team was going to come up with this? Hell no. I think we overthink these things these days. Why not just let guys turn their personality up to 1,000 and have some damn fun out there? So, Jeff, now that I've gotten that off my chest, let's go for the finish here. What do you have for us?
Yeah, again, thanks to Billy Gunn. He can be found on Twitter. He's at Real Billy Gunn. And then Road Dogg can be found. He is at WWE Road Dogg. And as always, reminding our listeners, subscribe in your favorite podcast platform. Give us 5 stars no matter where you listen. Spread the word about the payoff. You can always find Tom and myself. We are on Twitter and Instagram all week long. Facebook, it's at Payoff Pod. Tom, I know how we close it, but my ass is still going to call somebody and let you finish it up this week.
All right. Hey, maybe for our 100th episode, I'm going to let you finish it.
Wow. That'd be really sweet. Thank you.
All right. Well, that's something to look forward to. All right. One of these
Got
days.
it. Got it.
All right. So for Jeff and Tom, thank you for joining us on The Payoff.